All Indiana Politics is your premier source for Indiana politics, focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome to another edition of All Indiana Politics. I'm Phil Sanchez. Health advocates and House Democrats are pushing back on Governor Mike Braun, calling Medicaid a broken program. They're also concerned about his administration's directive to stop advertising services. ITMate's Tim Spears has been tracking the impacts every step of the way.
Health advocates tell me putting an end to advertising may stop people from enrolling in Medicaid, but it won't stop the need for Medicaid, and it could cause the number of uninsured Hoosiers to spike.
People are already unclear about the options available when it comes to health care.
Geneseret Clinics, which offers free health care to people without insurance, saw a 50% increase in patients last year. Executive Director Malele Kennedy worries the Braun administration's directive for providers to stop advertising Medicaid programs on radio and television will leave more people uninsured.
Many of the people that come through our doors don't know what the resources are, and they just need immediate help.
More than 1 in 4 Hoosiers rely on some form of Medicaid, which Governor Mike Braun called a broken program.
So that's a broken program in the sense that they don't know what to do with it out in Congress in terms of sustaining it long term.
He's bringing that Washington philosophy back to Indiana.
State Representative Gregory Porter disagrees.
A program cannot be broken that provides health care for 2 million Hoosiers, from the young ones all the way up to senior citizens.
In a hearing Wednesday, the Braun-appointed Secretary of the Family and Social Services Administration, Mitch Rube, said the state does not want to advertise a program it's struggling to fund.
It was never intended to be an open-ended entitlement with no responsibility on the part of the recipient.
And you complain about the cost, but you're going to create a pathway of higher expenses by not advertising and people getting sicker and winding up in emergency rooms.
More than 8% of Indiana is uninsured, totaling more than 565,000 Hoosiers. Kennedy worries by limiting Medicaid information, that number will rise.
What we want to ensure is that we continue to advocate for those that need assistance and figure out how we can all work together to ensure that those that need access continue to receive it.
The current head of the FSSA also supports legislation creating new coverage restrictions and a 20-hour work requirement for the Healthy Indiana plan. Governor Braun's chief of staff told me there is not a goal to decrease the number of people enrolled in Medicaid, but health advocates and state Democrats find that hard to believe. In studio, Tim Spears for Wish TV, wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook for updates.
And those comments from Braun were the first, and so far only the time he's spoken publicly on the Medicaid advertising ban. And here's his full exchange with Tim Spears.
Governor Braun, you said that you want Hoosiers making informed decisions, but your administration has asked for providers to stop advertising.
So that's a broken program in the sense that they don't know what to do with it out in Congress in terms of sustaining it long term. If that program wants to stay in place for those that can't afford health care, we're going to have to do a better job at running it as opposed to inviting more people to come onto it. You do that once you fix it. And until we lower provider costs, neither Medicaid nor Medicare, and especially the private side, is going to be able to do more when it's breaking the bank to begin with. That's the underlying point of it.
All right, for more on this, let's bring in 2 members of Indiana's best political team now, Republican Mario Masalamani and Democrat Laura Beck. Good to see you both. Mario, let's begin with you. What is there to accomplish by blocking advertising on Medicaid services?
I think that, Governor Braun is more focused on making sure that the people that need Medicaid get Medicaid. I don't think that this is a big issue with stopping the advertising of Medicaid. Under the 4 years of Joe Biden, he was trying to push people onto Medicaid as much as possible. So there's a lot of people, I believe, that are using Medicaid as a method of health insurance that truly don't need it or are qualified for it. I believe that Governor Braun is focused on making sure that the people that truly need Medicaid, we talk about 1 in 4 Hoosiers utilize Medicaid. So, I think it's important that we make sure that the people that truly need Medicaid or qualified for Medicaid get the benefits and get the services needed. The question is, are there people on there that are getting Medicaid services that don't need it? Yes, there are. I know of people that are using Medicaid, people where one person is having their ex-wife qualify for Medicaid because they don't make that much. However, the man that's supporting the family or the independents or the dependents could easily pay for health care. So I think that it's important with 1 in 4 Hoosiers on Medicaid to making sure that the people that truly are eligible and qualified get the program.
Well, Laura, let's talk, though, a little bit more about the role of Medicaid advertising. So how much awareness is there typically among those who are eligible for Medicaid about what to do, where to go?
Well, I think their goal here is clearly to limit and lower their enrollment numbers. There's no question. When you stop advertising, when you stop communicating with people to tell them about a public service that is available to the public, particularly those people who need it the most, that means you don't want them to sign up for it. So it's disingenuous to go on and on about it being a broken program, and that's not really what the goal and objective is. It is to limit coverage of people who need Medicaid. And I think that's abundantly clear by what they're doing. And this is just fitting a pattern of what we're seeing Mike Braun doing with his budget. Particularly, he wants to cut $50 million in local public health programs, which ultimately are boosting healthcare and health outcomes and have been proven to do that. I think when you talk about Medicaid and you look at it, we clearly have issues in this country with health insurance. That is something that has been an issue for years and years and years. A family of 4 in the state of Indiana making $40,000 a year qualifies for the Healthy Indiana program. A family of 5 making $50,000 a year qualifies for the Healthy Indiana program. So before we make boogeymen out of people who are not able to access health care or whose jobs don't provide health care, I think we need to understand people are not being paid enough. There's this whole systemic issue that is happening, and they're having a hard time accessing healthcare. But by taking away the advertising component, that means you don't want people to know about it and you don't want people to enroll.
Does it feel like a temporary pause, Laura, or a permanent ban on the advertising?
I have no idea. I think they have budget numbers that they want to hit. I don't think they necessarily really I don't want to say care, but I don't think the needs of the 1.8 million, almost 2 million people in the state of Indiana who use this healthcare service, I just don't think that's a concern for them. I think they have budget goals. I think they have budget ideas of what they want to accomplish. They're sitting on a huge surplus. And I think they have their priorities and they're going to push those forward. And this is not a priority.
Mario, to the politics of it all, could this backfire among Republican voters?
I don't believe so. Mike Braun, when he became governor and when he was running to become governor, he wanted to make sure that we were running an efficient and effective government. And I think that that's what he's trying to do here. He understands that 1 in 4 Hoosiers are using Medicaid. So he understands, and Hoosiers must be aware of the Medicaid program or Hoosier HealthWise program, that they are enrolled if 1 in 4 Hoosiers are using the program. I believe that what he's trying to do is make sure that we understand who really needs it and who is eligible for it, and that the people that truly need the services get the services. And also, this is, Indiana has been very successful over the last, 16 years because of Republican leadership. Before Republicans took over the governor's office, we had unfunded pensions, we had dilapidated roads, we had increasing crime under Democrat leadership as governor, because, Republicans understand that we don't just have a blank check. We need to make sure that we are able to work within our means and work within our tax base and revenue base base to provide for the services that Hoosiers need.
All right. Well, good conversation. Thank you both. Sit tight. We'll catch up with you a little bit later in the program. Coming up, a bill in the General Assembly could force more cooperation between law enforcement and immigration officials. We break down the circumstances that could lead to an arrest under this bill. State lawmakers want to require local law enforcement to notify federal authorities if they arrest someone they believe is in the United States unlawfully. The bill comes as the Trump administration begins a massive crackdown on illegal immigration. Our government reporter Garrett Berquist explains which circumstances would lead to an arrest under the bill.
The bill's author says it doesn't significantly change what police do because anyone affected by the bill would already be heading to jail.
When you're arresting a person for a felony or misdemeanor, the officer, in order to charge that, they're going to need some identifying information, whether that be a license, a social security number, even a name. They can start to look you up. Anybody that is arrested is going to need that information. So that is the determination, and that is when the determination is made, only after the arrest for the misdemeanor or the felony.
Under the bill, if an officer has probable cause to believe the person is in the country unlawfully, they have to notify the county sheriff during the jail intake process. The sheriff then must notify federal authorities. Immigration advocates say the bill could easily ensnare people who are in the country legally, or even people born here. Carolina Castoreno was born and raised here, but says that happened to her personally.
I was pulled over, I was detained, and I was questioned about my status. I speak perfect English. I am a citizen of this country. I did not happen to have my social security card on me at the time, and even though I had my driver's license, that wasn't enough for them.
The bill comes as the Trump administration launches a series of immigration actions at the federal level. Refugee resettlement programs have been paused. Federal troops are being deployed to the southern border. A House committee approved the bill on a bipartisan, though not unanimous, vote.
It does not affect those just walking down the street. It's only those that are arrested for a felony or misdemeanor. And oftentimes that determination will be made by the lack of a license, a lack of the documentation. So the individuals that said that they may be targeted, if they've got that documentation, that is not going to occur.
But Castoreno says migrants might not always have their paperwork on them at their jobs, and paperwork often takes time to get mailed to them. She says the bill could lead to racial profiling.
If our objective is to focus on violent criminals, then we should be doing just that. Whether they are undocumented immigrants or whether they are United States citizens, violent crimes are more of a concern than people who are simply trying to get to and from their job every day and take care of their families and contribute to this economy.
The bill now heads to the full House for further consideration. At the State House, I'm Garrett Bergquist for Wish TV, wishtv.com, or follow us on Facebook for updates.
All right, coming up, we check back in with Indiana's best political team on the flurry of executive orders from Mike Braun and from Donald Trump. All right, welcome back to All Indiana Politics. Joining us now, once again, Laura Beck and Mario Masalamani. Governor Mike Braun has signed a flurry of executive actions in his first days in office. Let's talk about one that's a little under the radar. He's called for an independent audit of the state's Medicaid system. Mario, let's begin with you. How much money would this realistically save, in your opinion?
It could save millions. You know, I think that it's important that we actually do an audit of Medicaid. As we talked about in the previous panel, 1 in 4 Hoosiers utilize Medicaid. And so I think it's extremely important that we're able to understand who really needs it, and the people that are eligible and need it get it, and make sure that the people that don't qualify aren't getting the services that, people that need it should get.
Braun, Laura, cites concerns, over Medicaid costs for many of his orders. Is there another way to maybe control costs without impacting those who use Medicaid, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, I think this is an opportunity for him to look into. I mean, I would strongly encourage, if you're going to do an audit of Medicaid, that you do an audit top to bottom of all of state government. I mean, is there fraud and abuse in the Department of Transportation or Department of Commerce there are a number of state agencies, and I would, if you're going to look at Medicaid, then I would look at every other state agency to see where you can cut to make sure that taxpayers are getting the most out of our investment in state government.
Yeah. Let's turn to national politics, guys. In the final minutes of his presidency, Joe Biden issued thousands of pardons, including to members of his own family. Then just minutes into his presidency, Donald Trump pardoned virtually all of those people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th of 2021. Laura, did both undermine the rule of law here?
Well, I think this, if there's anything, I'm not a lawyer, so Mario's the lawyer here, so I would defer to his constitutional law scholarship here much more than my own. But I think what this does is it really shows that the pardoning power really needs to be looked at and adjusted, frankly. The fact that Joe Biden was able to, he had to issue preemptive pardons because he was concerned about Donald Trump going after folks like Anthony Fauci and Liz Cheney and things like that. But I think it's wholly inappropriate to pardon your entire family preemptively as well. Yeah. I think that is a misuse of it. But then I also think it's a massive misuse to pardon 16 or 1,700 January 6 rioters, many of whom viciously assaulted police officers who lost their lives that day. So to me, what it says is it's time to look at the pardon power and fix the pardon power so we aren't continuing to do this again. As a citizen, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, I think it's incredibly disturbing to see this is how the pardoning power is used.
Well, to that point, Mario, I want to get your response on the legalities of it, and also what Laura was saying. Is it maybe time to rein in the presidential pardon power?
I think there is. Watching Twitter over the last couple of days, it's been fascinating to see that Republicans and Democrats all have been complaining about the pardon power of the presidency. Republicans 15 minutes before Biden's presidency ended, he pardoned his family preemptively. So they hadn't been charged or convicted with any sort of crime, but he preemptively pardoned them. So why would you need to preemptively pardon someone unless they potentially have done something wrong and something criminal? So, I think that there does need to be some, oversight as to the presidential pardons. He pardoned a number of federal convicted inmates and family members were outraged of, serious violent felons that were in federal custody that Biden had pardoned. And I think that, him doing that in the last couple of days and last couple minutes of his presidency, there's a reason for that, because he didn't want the American people to know that. And I think the American people, Republicans or Democrats, are tired of, some of the shenanigans that go on in D.C.
Speaking of President Trump, ICE reports it has deported more than 500 people in the first 3 days of the Trump presidency. And we just heard about an immigration enforcement bill here in Indiana in our last segment. Mario, how much of a risk does this pose to legal immigrants? And what might this mean for recipients of DACA?
I don't think that it's a problem. If you're a legal immigrant in this country, you should not be afraid of the actions of Donald Trump, the executive orders, and what ICE is doing. As you stated, Phil, 538 illegal immigrants have been detained, including one suspected terrorist, a number of members of Mexican gangs. A number of those 538 illegal immigrants that were detained as of this morning included individuals that had committed sex crimes towards not just people, but also against minors. A lot of these people were walking the streets because of the lax laws and the lax bond systems that sanctuary cities have. And so I believe that this is going to help protect Americans. It's going to protect Hoosiers by taking some of the worst off the streets and making sure that Hoosiers and Americans are protected. We don't want suspected terrorists walking the streets. We don't want Mexican gang members walking the streets. And we don't want convicted rapists, child molesters walking the streets.
Laura, I'll let you respond to that. Also, a number of Democrats voted for the Lake and Riley Act, as you very well know. Does this maybe suggest that a shift among Democrats on immigration? Go ahead, less than a minute.
I don't know if I'd say it's necessarily a shift. I think that if you've got people who are dangerous people, whether they are illegal or native-born citizens, they should be in prison for the crimes they commit once they go through the process. I just had to chuckle because 500 people have been apparently caught up in these raids, but Donald Trump pardoned 1,600 people who violently attacked our Capitol in an effort to overturn an election. And so it's a nice way to try and flip flip the script on the fact that you have domestic terrorists walking the streets now who, were trying to hang Mike Pence and kill our elected representatives. So going back to the overall issue of immigration, I think we're going to watch as it unfolds. I think we're going to see. I think Democrats will take it on a case-by-case basis. Yeah. But I think we need to be really mindful that you have 1,600 violent people who are now flooding the zone after they attacked our capital.
Unfortunately, guys, we are out of time. Always a good discussion. Thank you so much. Good to see you both. We will talk again soon. Thank you. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics this week. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30. And be sure to check out the All Indiana Politics podcast online at wishtv.com. Have a great rest of your weekend.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.